our first nominees.
Give me my Oscar, or I'll tear your head off your body.
Welcome, gentle folks of all persuasions, to another episode of Fluffenbusters. As ever, I am Mr. D, joined by Mr. White.
Hello.
You can never find a Robocop when you need one. Oh my God!
And today, we're doing a re-recording. We're going back and tackling Robocop by Paul Verhoeven.
The recording that disappeared.
Yeah, that's why, and it just made sense given we've just done Judge Dredd, so it means we've got Dredd, we've got Judge Dredd, and we have Robocop. That's they're in conversation with each other, really, if you stop and think about it. So yeah, should we just get straight into it?
Yeah, why not? Let's just jump, because it'll save me a lot of effort with the editing. I can tell you that.
All right, Pee-wee. It's safe to continue giving the award now.
Thanks, Robocop.
However, can I just say one thing?
Certainly.
So I don't have some big thesis to go on with this. It's not like Dredd where I've got some new information. However, one of the reasons why we wanted to do this, there is so much that has been said about Robocop. Robocop has so many layers to it. There's depths of both plot and character, but also as well a look on the social status of the time. Reaganism, politics, media, capitalism, loads of stuff. So when you watch Robocop, it really is a film where when you watch it again, you will learn something different or you will notice something. And I noticed something really fascinating. In the first scene, and we jump into it so quickly that, I wouldn't be able to say this before we'd gone through other questions, but in the very first news beat, we are introduced to 3 characters in one way. We are introduced to the corporate publicity side of Dick Jones, the public awareness and fear of Clarence Boddicker, and the good luck, Frank, go on, get in there, my lad, chippy Frank Fredrickson, who's in hospital. And that's literally the opening moment. And most audiences will still be sitting down and getting their popcorn ready by the time they see that. And it's a wonderful way to start laying out this world before you actually get to meet 2 out of those 3 people.
That's a good point. And I mean, Robocop's actually it's a really efficient film in that regard for how it introduces everything.
Yes.
Really.
Almost every character gets 2 appearances in a slightly different way. And I'm not going to say any more now because let's jump into the film. And I'm sorry, D, I had to say that because like when you ask me where I saw this film, I've got an absolute doozy of an answer for you.
Fair shout. Right. Well, in that case, we're going to start the film. We've got it queued up. Depending on what version you have, it can vary. So we're going to go from the Orion logo.
Yep.
Basically for Starfield before the logo appears itself. So on my version, it's 16 seconds in, just after the MGM logo has finished.
Cool.
So yeah, let's get this baby on the road. And a 1 and a 2 and a... There we go.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So D, where did you first hear about this film or see this film?
I first heard about it actually as a poster in the local video shop when we were living in Carterton in 1988, I believe.
Wow.
My dad was deployed to the base near there, and that was kind of where we went for stuff. And I mean, I saw the poster, the cutout.
Yeah.
I think I even saw a few of the action figures eventually on the shelves, but I actually didn't watch the film probably till the early 90s, maybe on TV.
Mm-hmm.
I may even have seen the cartoon series first, or bits of Robocop 2 first, before I'd seen the first film.
That doesn't surprise me. That really does fit with what a lot of, especially Americans, think about this film, because this is a film I think that's very close in a personal way to a lot of Americans. And because of the rating of the film as well in the States, and I had to remind myself of this as well, although it had an R rating, all that meant was that you could see it as a younger person if your older, either brothers or parents, took you to see this film. And this film was really beloved by all ages.
Oh yeah,
And so it's no surprising that as time went on, its fame, its infamy, its coolness, its recognizability just grew. And that I think is what prompted, because we talked about this the other day as well with Dread, is that grew this market, this interest for more stuff. And everyone straight away went, well, this is a superhero film. Where is the comic for this superhero?
yeah. I mean, Robocop was a real multimedia behemoth for
Yeah.
the early 90s. I mean, I was having to think about it, and really, the only. All right, I was having to think about this because everyone thinks the modern blockbuster begins with like Jaws and Star Wars, right, in the 70s.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of getting bums on seats, certainly. Star Wars then had the merchandise, but the crucial thing is that that was never intended.
Yes.
Lucas negotiated the rights, but no one actually expected how it would do. It was never planned to be this behemoth, you know?
Yep.
But in the 80s, you had Ghostbusters. And that film is so precisely engineered as a franchise launcher, as well as just being, it's also a damn good film, in fairness. But from that, you had theme track, you had action figures, you had the real Ghostbusters cartoon, which our own Mr. Nickel will wax lyrical about at length, which ran for a long time and had a spin-off. You had Ghostbusters 2.
Yep.
You had the three more recent films, which I haven't seen the two more recent ones, but still, it launched a franchise, and in the same way Robocop did.
Yep.
But they're kind of the only two films I can think of that did it this successfully. If you know what I mean?
And Robocop as well did it despite not being planned to be a family franchise.
Yeah.
And they certainly had no idea to make follow-ups or make further entries in the series. It was just so well put together and struck such a chord that it really, really hit home. I just want to note here as well, we're seeing the scene where Fredrickson gets his second mention and his last. So good luck, Frank. Didn't quite work. But also we see the first of two appearances of Cecil, the only cop to stand up to Robocop.
That's true. Everyone else kind of in awe of him, and
Yeah. And
rightly
it's
so.
again, we've seen introductions during that media break. We also see as well Murphy coming in later on as well. You'll be told why Murphy is there, which adds to the plot, adds a little bit more depth. He's a fish out of water on his first day, but it's at the moment you're seeing things that just layered very, very carefully, and this feels very much like, although it's the future, the story and the characters and the setting are really well established and laid out.
I mean, it's worth pointing out, spookily enough, today, Tor.com, one of my favorite blogs to visit from time to time, they have an ongoing feature of the Sci-Fi Film Club, where one of their writers basically writes about a genre film. And today they posted one about Robocop.
Oh, fantastic.
Which, complete fluke. And there are some interesting little nuggets in there. Like, the two screenwriters had two things going for them when they were doing this. Loved robots, hated Ronald Reagan.
I'm not surprised.
And man, does it show in this film, because...
Well, also, it does help as well. I mean, Edward Neumeier, I'm going to butcher his name as well, but I'm going to say Neumeier. He was lucky enough to be working on the studio lots at the time that they were shooting Blade Runner. And he will always say that it was he got a chance to walk around Blade Runner. Now, he's always been really open and said he never worked on it in any large way, but he got to soak in the atmosphere. And so he began this idea of thinking about robots. And one day he saw one of the synths being filmed, said, "Who's that?" And they went, "Oh, that's a robot." And he was like, "No, robots look like robots." And so that's where his journey started. And the other writer, Michael Miner, was also working on I think it was Starcop, or it was a similar theme, but he was coming at the same situation from a very different angle. And so they decided to collaborate. And yeah, it's so odd that an idea that still, if you say it, it does feel a little bit cheesy. And yet it evolved and developed into such a deep film.
Absolutely. And it is kind of scary watching it today that it's still really relevant, really. It really is.
Oh gosh, yes. Yes. I think and I've got to be very, very careful here, folks. And trust me, folks, we don't mean to bring up anything, but obviously Reaganism was a hot topic at the time. There were a lot of consequences to it as well, but there were a lot of good things. That certainly changed the corporate landscape. People like myself spend a lot of time in that landscape. But it does mean as well that when you view it today, it has certain echoes, both of things that you like and admire, and also of things that scare you, that unsettle you, that you don't like about the world. And certainly the idea as well that even though we've been introduced to our hero, and we know it's a hero, and we've seen these hardworking policemen who are struggling, we then cut to a completely different world. It's almost as alien a world to those policemen as it would be if they were in outer space. It's the corporate world.
Yep. I'm more is for C-suite, which is a level that I always find terrifying. Anytime I've had to interact with people from that in the companies I've worked for, when they've come down to our level for whatever reason. In fairness, a lot of the time I found myself shoved out of the corner doing something else because people know I won't hold back if they ask me questions.
It's one of those environments where they welcome input and feedback, but in some companies there's like a positive culture. What do they call it?
They
I
don't
think
want to hear negativity. They want to hear about what works, and it's like,
there's the blame culture where whatever you do, you're wrong, and then let's call it the positive feedback culture, which has impacted some games companies where they don't like anyone to speak out of line, and we both suffered with that.
yeah,
I will say at this point, Ronnie Cox was known at the time for playing really trusted, homely roles.
yeah,
I mean, I think the riskiest thing he'd done at that point was Deliverance, but he
yep,
was a trusted figure that you could relax and admire. He
yeah,
said about this that even when he's doing these scenes, he's doing it from the old adage of he's doing it believing his character is right.
absolutely.
He's doing it believing he has a reason.
Yeah, Dick Jones might be an asshole, but he does genuinely think that he's doing what's best for the company and
Yep.
himself.
Yeah.
He and, and honestly, Cox, this kind of gave him a bit of a boost in his career. I wouldn't say that's doing a disservice because he was a very successful actor and
Yeah.
musical performer before this. But it opened the door to him playing a lot more bad guys.
Yes. It gave him that extra string to his fiddle, so to speak.
Yeah, so he came back to play. He was in Total Recall with Verhoeven again.
Mm.
He had a recurring role on Stargate SG-1 as quite a nasty senator, which was a wonderful role for him. And also he got to, I don't know if you remember, he played Captain Edward Jellicoe on Star Trek Next Generation for 2
Yes.
episodes, where he takes command of the Enterprise when Picard's on assignment. And he's a very different character to Picard.
Yes. Doesn't he play a good person, but the audience naturally feel he's a bad guy because he's not their safe
Yeah.
choice. And yet, ironically, for an actor like this, he was the safe choice. When he would turn up on a film or a TV show, you were like, well, nothing's going to happen to him. He's good.
Yeah, and here he is honestly playing. Oh, sorry,
So-
Ed 209 gunning this poor exec down is always never not hilarious because it's just so much overkill.
So a few fun facts for this then, because I've done a bit of research on this because I like it. This poor guy got the most squibs that anyone has ever gotten on a film set, apparently to date. And in the end, they couldn't get enough blood on there, so the guys during one break went down and realized that I think it was spaghetti that they were serving in the canteen, and so there's a bag of spaghetti under the squibs to help the flow. Ed itself is a beautiful, beautiful creation. Although it could barely move. That was the payoff with it. But it does have a beautiful hum.
It does.
And both it and Robocop have that as almost its heartbeat. However, this is something that I noticed that I love. I know Bob Moulton's about to do his thing and step over the line. And if you think about it, by the way, he's stepping on somebody else's baby because Dick Jones really loves Ed 209. It's his personal project. But think about it. They have a gun in their conference room.
Yeah.
They have an armed weapon in their conference room. This will blow your mind. So there's been a death, a messy death, right? And that gun was the cause of it. Anywhere else, any fair society, that gun would get taken as evidence. It is never taken away, is it?
Nope. And in fact, here it kind of plays into the fact that OCP they literally own the cops.
Yeah.
They've privatized the Detroit Police Department, which is a sentence that should strike fear into anyone, frankly.
Poor old Kenny doesn't even get more than a name check.
Yeah.
But in that moment as well, they admit that they've put people like Murphy they've transferred them over from safer areas because they would be the most suitable to be corpses that they can use for Robocop. Which is, it's so well done, the corporate side of things, because by the end of the film, especially with this first film, you believe still that there are good guys and bad guys in the corporate world.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, given how the old man talks at the end of the film.
Exactly.
And then in the film too, no, he's a bigger asshole than anyone.
But that's the thing. He's been a bigger asshole all along.
Yeah.
It's just that because of that one line where he's trying to get chummy with the cop who's just uncovered the crime, and you can tell he's already trying to spin it. He's already trying to get on his side. He comes out looking like a good guy. And I've always found that fascinating in that the old man gets away with it.
Yeah.
Nuts.
And this might be the single most heavyweight cast of goons ever, because it's character actor after character actor here. It's nuts.
And I think all of them were on the A-team. Because in the RoboDoc, some of them, they talk about their previous experiences, and almost all of them, it pops up, and there's Hannibal and Face. And yet the irony is that because they get a chance, I'm thinking very much like Aliens, the Colonial Marines. Those who stick around, they get a chance to emboss their characters. And funnily enough, although they don't, only one of them ever mentions it, it does feel like some of them take on aspects of Batman goons.
That's true, yeah.
You know, it just I don't know why, but for instance, Ray Wise there, he feels like the Face, but he also feels a little bit like he's smooth, but he's also dangerous. He feels a little bit Two-Face. You've got Paul McCrane, who's the biker, who's Emil, the driver here. And he feels like the kind of the raging, the kind of antagonistic, the bully, almost like the Bane. It's like, I'm going to fight you. I'm going to fight you.
Yeah.
And then you've got Jesse playing Joe, who's the Joker, who just uses this crazy laugh.
Then you have Kurtwood Smith as Clarence, and
that's just, yeah, I'll tell you what, that's like the Penguin to me. Believes that he's a bit more suave than he really is. He's actually a street criminal, but he has some airs and graces. But when you cross him, he's completely psycho.
yeah.
And in this as well, I think he spends most of the movie on drugs.
Yeah, that would track, I think. Yeah, none of these guys seem like they're completely running straight, shall we say?
It's no surprise to hear from other cast and crew that not only did they get up to some minor jinx, like they would nick golf buggies and go for rides in them, but they all got on really well. But they were all absolute sweethearts. And I think, given the absolute clusterfudge that this shoot was, and it was awful, like the stuff they reel out, especially if you get the chance, watch RoboDoc. It's on Prime at the moment. You can watch it for free. It's about 4.5 hours of the absolute hell that this cast and crew went through.
Yeah, I mean, Weller in particular, because that suit, I mean, it was custom built for him, but it still was a 6-hour makeup job.
6 hours, and that was when it was working well.
Yeah.
But this scene, by the way, is a lovely way to utilize old rundown machinery. Even though this is in Pennsylvania and most of the film is shot in Dallas, it all still works as a great representation of Detroit. So much so that Robocop is like Detroit's favorite son. Really well done. And it's a nice setup as well. You know that the police are underfunded. You know that they're not sending any backup. In this scene as well, you get the reason why Lewis isn't there to support her partner. And you can genuinely understand why she's heartbroken about not being able to save him.
Yeah.
And yet it does as well show that Murphy is tough as nails, has morals. He's a decent guy. He deserved better than this. Oh, by the way, before I completely forget, I saw this film in 1989 on the big screen. I was invited by a bunch of American Marines. I was at RAF St. Morgan with the Air Cadets. The whole group of us, we were all far, far too young for this. Everyone passing us either smirked or went, "Don't make a noise. Don't show people up. Don't tell any sergeant that you're here. Don't tell us we showed you this film." And all of the Marines were just reeling off the words to the screen. A lot of them were even doing the footsteps. It was insane. Anyway, sorry, D. I'll let you talk for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, getting back to the suit, there's a thing about how there's an anecdote that during shooting, Verhoeven and Weller really started to not get on with each other because it was causing so many problems. But they both said that they did make up in the end, and I think everyone involved in this film thinks really fondly of it.
Yeah.
And you can understand why, because, I mean, man, it's great. And in a lot of ways, it's a bit of a shame that this is kind of what Peter Weller's most well known for, because he has done other stuff. There was Odyssey 5. Let's see, Odyssey 5.
Naked Lunch.
Yeah, Naked Lunch. Streamers is a highly underrated little action flick. Buckaroo Banzai was, I think, what he was most known for before this.
Sorry, at this point, you've now said the magic words. Paul Anderson, are you listening to me? Hello, Paul Anderson. We've said Buckaroo Banzai. Are you all right? Good. Okay, as you were, D. The guy is obsessed.
It's just so weird. No, mostly knowing him from later performances, seeing him so young in this, you know.
Well, every big star has their breakout,
Mm.
and very few stars ever get to eclipse their breakout. Now, some go on to huge careers, yes, but this, for all the for all the other roles that he's taken, and remember, a lot are going to be sci-fi based because he's sort of known for that genre, but he's had a good career. He's certainly had some fun, and it's all because of this film.
Yeah.
It's all good. I
And
will say,
oh.
go on.
No, I was just going to say, I actually quite enjoy. I follow him on Instagram because he has a doctorate in fine art,
Nice.
and a lot of his feed is basically giving talks about art galleries, installations, specific pieces. It's real, and his voice is just so mellow to listen to. The dude, there's no wonder he got a doctorate and gives lectures. And that's
And here
that's
we
kind
go.
of smart.
Right, so it's worth noting there is improv going on here for the other guys. And I know you're saying, Adam, why aren't you talking about the blood and the gore? Well, the blood and the gore was arduous and it was tough. And what you see here took its own journey to come to the screen. But it shows as well the sort of collaboration that Paul Verhoeven said to these guys, right, improvise, work off each other, spark off each other, have some ideas. The laugh was developed as something. I mean, the fact that two of these actors moonwalk backwards out of this scene, I think one of them sticking their face in a pile of coke on the way. And they even apologized to Paul and said, sorry, that was a bit too much. Or the line where one of them says, oh, I'm out of ammo. It's all improvised, admittedly within the framework that Verhoeven gives this tale. But then again, a lot of that is due to the crazy way that this film came into being.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of delighted to find out about how Verhoeven initially didn't want to do the film. He read the first few pages and didn't like the script.
Yeah.
But his wife read it entirely and basically said, no, you need to read this. And he struggled with the humor and the references. So he actually went to the screenwriters and asked them to explain it to him so he could understand it. Because if anyone's not aware, Paul Verhoeven was a Dutch filmmaker. He'd only, I think, made one English language film before this. That was Flesh and Blood in '85, which flopped, but is kind of regarded quite highly in retrospect.
I think it made money on video as well, which is why Orion were quite positive about getting on board. And also, as well, folks, the reason they went to this overseas director is every American director had wanted nothing to do with this based on that name. Dee is absolutely right. That name threw people off, and they just didn't want to deal with it. And it was, his wife, very much like Viggo and his son on Lord of the Rings. Sometimes it takes somebody who's not an actor to go, look, you should hold up on this. You should give this a chance. And
Absolutely.
Almost a blessing, because Paul's first language wasn't English, it meant that he was going to the writers and going, why is this funny? Why is this horrific? Why is this character related to this? And so instead of not challenging, but seeking a deeper meaning to the script that was provided, and therefore the three of them really did sweat out this script and just added as much to it, realizing that you don't just have a background character in one scene who says a line and then buggers off. If you're going to be at that location for more than 2 or 3 scenes, you're probably going to see them in the background. They might not do much, but they're there because that's the world that you've created. And a lot of these characters, they're mentioned in one scene, then they show up in another, or they're referenced here and then they show up there. Or even poor old Frank Fredrickson, who gets 2 mentions, never appears, and is dead within 2 minutes of the film starting. But it shows you that this world is lived in. And I should say, at the time that they did this film, cutting to black was not done. It was just something that people didn't do. There just seemed like no point in it. But for Paul to use it here, and I always feel he made Murphy's death as nasty as possible, so that when Robocop appears, you already feel for him. because it's like you feel this guy deserves his second chance. He deserves his extra life. Sorry,
Absolutely.
I'm going off on little mini rants already. There's so much here. It's so difficult.
There is. Do we want to touch on some of the broader stuff? Because
Yeah, go for it.
one thing I always liked about Robocop was because one of my first introductions was actually by the Robocop vs Terminator comic when Dark Horse was serializing it in their Terminator comic, which they published over here in the early 90s. And there's some great stuff where, because it's set a few years after the films,
Yeah.
the Ed 209s are on the street, they're working, and Robo actually has he can take like command authorization over them, and that's kind of cool. I actually like that, the idea that they do actually work.
Yeah.
They just needed more time, and it was because they weren't given it. That's why it kind of failed in that test, because they were trying to rush it out, so to speak. But it just added a nice extra bit of texture to it. And should probably also call out the more recent game that came out, Robocop. I've forgotten what it's called. It came out in the last couple of years. It's by the team who did a Terminator game as well fairly recently, and they did a standalone DLC that actually ties into Murphy's backstory.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, and the thing is, they actually got a lot of the actors back to do voices. So Peter Weller does Robo, Nancy Allen does. I've forgotten her character. Lewis. Yep. And they sound great. And honestly, both of them, I see pictures of them on the convention circuit quite regularly, and they seem absolute sweethearts. They really do.
They do. Yeah. These shots were genuinely really shocking for audiences at the time. And it's worth noting as well for younger viewers, and I say younger viewers, I mean anyone listening to this who's not as old and decrepit as we are. But this is not computer created. The effects, the boxes within boxes, the stuff that you take for granted, even the text on the screen. This is optical FX work because digital wasn't around at that point.
Yeah.
So these took a lot of work and a lot of like slow experimentation and all sorts of choices you're seeing on the screen are last minute. So, for instance, the idea to have Robo underneath some sort of clear plastic cover and then revealed, that was a choice on the day. But the idea as well that they were so worried that when you saw Robocop, that there might be a case of, right, if he doesn't land right, everyone's going to laugh and that's it, we're cooked. So they did whatever they could do to kind of draw out the first reveal of Robocop. And the idea to just look at him through frosted glass. I mean, I remember people going absolutely nuts. But the sound design, which, by the way, won an Oscar, this beautiful...
Understandable.
Which is a set of old gears from some sort of weird old mechanical machine with some, again, old-fashioned analog sound effects over the top of it. But it sets you up. He's almost like a horror guy.
Yeah.
You're scared of Robocop when you first see him. And then the next time you see it feels so mundane when he just walks through a door. But by that point, you stop thinking of him as an actor in a suit. He is automatically now Robocop, which is nuts.
Yep. And it is a wonderful bit of design for Robo. I mean, there's a reason it's endured, because it's just iconic, man. I mean,
it is, but it's also as well, it's a series of happy accidents. So the whole story with this is Rob Bottin, who did The Thing, who is almost a legend in the FX universe, was trying to build this thing for a long time. He had a lot of interference from the director. At one point, they had almost a maquette up that looked exactly like Judge Dredd. Like almost directly, which is a little scary, but at least they were going for the right tone of humor. But because they kept stopping the process at the early stages, it meant the suit got to set very, very late, actually on the first day of shooting. Now, Weller had really wanted to lock into this character by thinking about the movement. Unfortunately, all the moves, and he'd even worked with a mime, all the moves that he's done, he simply couldn't do them in the suit. And so they had the worst crisis that you could possibly have on day one of shooting Robocop. Robocop did not work. And it was the first of many times when the film could have died. The film could have fallen flat. But somebody high up said, right, we stop production and we give Weller time to figure this out. And in the end, it took his mime coming over and talking to him for about 30 minutes to go, this is what you need to do. But by the way, whilst you're doing that, we're going to rip all the joints out of this really expensive suit because nobody's going to give a crap, but it means the actor can move. And again, there's all these tiny little things that went wrong or didn't work, and yet somehow they all added to this wonderful project. It's like, I don't know, it's like burning the middle of a 15-layer cake, and yet because it's burnt, it adds extra flavor to the end result, if you see what I mean.
I get that. Yeah, it's one of those really interesting things when a film. Has any film ever really survived contact with, well, the daily grind of production, really?
No, there's 1,000 compromises and there's 1,000 wins. There's so many small things in so many tiny moments, like almost infinitesimal. And added to the mix as well, you have a director who is a little crazy.
Yeah.
And so the actors both had freedom, but they also had this guiding hand. He was a bully, but he was also supportive. He was crazy, but he was encouraging. So many things just all worked. By the way, at this point, should I just add in that most of Robocop's noises come from VCR players?
I love that. Any time I learn anything about the Foley work has gone into some of our favourite sound effects in films. It's one of those things that I always find it intriguing. Not enough to kind of do a deep dive, but just as a fan of film, anytime it comes up, it's like, oh, that's really fun. I dig that.
Well, if you want something really stupid, then the shot we saw of him catching the keys was the thing that was shot the most in the movie. Because they took, I believe, all afternoon to get it right because the keys kept bouncing off his suit.
I can imagine that. But the timing would just be nuts to try and balance.
I love the idea of him being seen just driving around as well. It just establishes that he's going to work, that he's in the city, but he's on the hunt. Oh my God, the amount of people that have told me, or documentaries that I've seen that have told me that there are links and various hints in the comics that he passes. He gets an issue of Iron Man, for instance. I think there's Machine Man in there as well, and there are some other stuff. Machine Man, by the way, I never realized until I watched the RoboDoc, but Machine Man is really quite close to this.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
the concept of him.
He's part of this lineage of Marvel have a weird thing with synthetic life forms, but and it goes right back to the original Human Torch, Jim Hammond, in the 30s, 40s. And it just runs right through. So arguably the closest Marvel analog to Robo is actually the Deathlock cyborg.
Yep.
Which is just nuts because it's gone to a stage where there are almost continually Deathlocks coming back in time trying to kill the guy who invented the process.
Yeah.
To the extent that there are other time travelers trying to stop it. It's mad. Deathlock is a trip. But Machine Man Aaron Stack he was actually probably the first Marvel superhero I ever read. Because Machine Man was the backup strip in the early Transformers comic.
Yep.
And that was itself like a what if, because it was set in the future, which of It's where we got Iron Man
2020,
2020.
Arno Stark, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, can I say this is the one fact that I've always held close to me that isn't from a doco or from anything else. This scene deeply troubled me. For various reasons, obviously, the obvious ones. But the thing that really freaked me out is that the guy in the back with the bleached blonde hair, he is one of the comedic villains in the Police Academy films. Remember the running gag with the blue oyster bar? Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's him. That's one of
Oh,
the guys.
Oh, that's funny.
So when I saw this, I was like, so is this him before his life of crime?
You did always kind of wonder about where some of the recruits came from for. Oh,
I've got to say this. I know, look, we said way back at the beginning we weren't going to talk about a load of stuff, but I've got to say this. At the beginning of the scene, his shadow gets bigger, right? But if you're walking towards them, your shadow gets smaller. So what they
Yeah.
did for that moment is he walked backwards. And that's why his shadow gets bigger when you see it in the background. It's Weller walking backwards. And I love the idea that they thought to do things like that. And that's where, my part of my brain that still loves cameras and camera work. I just adore stuff like this. Really, really nice.
I mean, I've always had a soft spot for the music for this film. It goes hard.
Oh,
Real
it's
hard.
Basil, isn't it? Yeah, really nice. Because he worked with him on Flesh and Blood, and he does seem in and it's older interviews, but it does seem like he's somebody that very much sweated over the themes of the film and how the music would work. And when you listen to it in isolation, it's one of those tracks that really does hold up to a full listen. This Sergeant, by the way, although I will say a lot of characters get dual roles or dual appearances, the fact that he shows up later when they're shooting Robo in the car park, that's not just a different aspect of him. He's genuinely playing two different characters. He just got chummy with the producers. He got there early, managed to get a drink with the producers because I think. Sorry, I just knocked the microphone. He got chummy with the producers and he knew a couple of them anyway. And they just went, you know what? We were thinking about getting you cast for each of these roles. You might as well do both. So yeah, that's how he got it. So he got himself a bigger role and more days on set. Good for him.
Yeah, fair shout.
And even this mayor, who is barely seen, he does actually get a scene at the end, but it was cut out.
Huh.
And it's a scene where he's talking. But they didn't really use him. He's barely here as a hostage. But of course, in the second film, they actually work more with the idea of a mayor and the mayor's relationship to the corporate structure. And of course, the mayor is completely helpless.
Yeah, the idea that Detroit's just been bought out entirely and OCP are just everything is basically their attempts to find ways to basically level it.
Yeah.
Get people out, and these annoying people who just won't leave is messing with their plans for Metro City. It's very funny.
It's fair to say as well that at the time, this seemed a lot more unrealistic than it might do now.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's politics. If anything, I'm saying that's corporate. And I'm sure all of us, know this. There's a lot has changed. I mean, my goodness, back during the 2010s, one of the reasons why I always remembered Robocop and its theme tune so much is because there was a guy on YouTube who used to write lyrics and create songs based on theme songs. So, he's going to save us. He's fighting crime. He'll catch the crooks on time. And he would be just there singing this song in a crappy Robocop costume. And of course, back then you could get away with doing that. All of those guys have gone because of copyright and because everyone's protecting their own businesses. But nowadays, everything is so cold and callous as well that a lot of what these guys are saying kind of rings true. You're like, yep, Yeah, I recognise that tactic.
It really does. And one of the funny things is, we mentioned it in our Judge Dredd discussion, but Robocop really hamstrung some of what they could do in that movie, because a lot of this film has a lot of the same stuff. And in fact, 2000 AD was one of the sources that the writers gave Verhoeven to get him in the mindset. And it's kind of the John Carter effect, I should say, where
I'm so sorry. That's my fault, isn't it? That's my influence.
look, you're not the one who somehow managed to wind up getting multiple John Carpenter movies on one set of watch-alongs just because there are so many of them on my list I get people to roll up on.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. But the whole thing where films come out and take inspiration from a source material, and by the time you get there to do something based on the original, everyone just thinks it's based on, it's ripping off a film that came earlier, when in fact that film is based on that material. It's a shame, to be fair.
Yeah. But for
And
those who don't know, so John Carter, if you see it, you'll go, "Oh, this feels like Star Wars. It feels like Star Trek. It feels like a whole host of movies." The thing is, John Carter did it first. It's just
Yep.
all these films, when they were being made, took influence from them. The challenge that you see with a lot of films after RoboCop is that a lot of films are taking inspiration from this, and yet they water it down, or they don't get it right. And it's tricky. There are some fantastic films that's still in development. So, for instance, you've got coming up next year, or sorry, this year, should I say? You've got Neuromancer,
Yep.
the cyberpunk film. Now, I think it's a TV show actually by Apple, but that
Yes. Yeah.
was the basis of so many other famous films and franchises and the whole cyberpunk aesthetic. And of course, you've got the game as well, which borrows heavily from that world. So by
Yeah.
the time that Neuromancer comes out, people might look at it and go, "Oh, well, that's just copying this." It's like, no, this is the original. It's just everyone else has already delved into that world.
Mm. And it's a real shame that also so many of these projects, when they do that, they don't kind of try and play in, lean in for marketing and say, look, we know you're going to find this familiar, but that's for a good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, John Carter is a personal favorite film of mine. It got me to go back and dig into the Barsoom stuff quite heavily. And because I knew about it, I hadn't really read into any of it.
Mm.
I kind of like seen the Frank Frazetta artwork and stuff. So, but I've dug a bit deeper. I've got into it. I own all the Modiphius Barsoom RPG books.
Mm.
I actually find it a really interesting setting, and what creators have done in other media and like in comic books and stuff in the years since is genuinely interesting. But I can understand why, if people weren't aware, or none of the trailers of John Carter kind of emphasized how this is what inspired Star Wars, Star Trek,
Yeah.
Flash Gordon. And so, yeah, a lot of folks just wrote it off as a copy, when it's like, no, this is the source material. It finally getting a bit of its due. But
Well, with this as well, you've got elements as well. You've got Metropolis. You've got a lot of the paranoia films of the 70s. There's a lot of extra elements in there.
yeah.
I do want to say, again, with the weirdness of film production, there's actually a couple of scenes that are really, really important to this film and the cast, the crew, and the producers, but not ones you'd think. So that last scene with Ronnie Cox being his bad guy and putting Morton down, that was the film that they showed. That was the scene they had to show to investors, because the investors needed some sort of faith in the film. And so that is why that scene was so polished, so precise. The set was built in record time and like a huge long 36-hour slog, even down to the fact where the actors actually did have a disagreement over the idea of Ronnie Cox grabbing the hair of Morton. And that was, and they had a discussion, and as actors do with actors, in a respectful manner, and they figured it out, and that's why it works. And they showed it to the backers, and the backers went, yeah, okay, we're great, we're on board. And if you think about the craziness of that, they were selling the film on the corporate battle. They hadn't even seen the rest of it yet.
I mean, it does help when you have two actors like Ronnie Cox and Miguel Ferreira, who are... This film is kind of a great showcase for both of them.
In different ways, but yeah.
Yeah. And they both kind of have had really good genre careers posts, but also just generally. Ferreira sadly no longer with us, but still, anytime he showed up in anything, it was almost instant. Yep, I'm hooked because he was that good and that versatile. But I mean,
different shades of stuff going on here. So, for instance, the lady who was kind of front and center during the sort of the early startup sequences, you can see that she's not as harsh as her colleague, who's the one who gets in everyone's face here and is actually more of a dick. Doesn't face any repercussions for it, but he's an issue. And then you have these challenging scenes where you're suddenly starting to see Murphy and Lewis connecting. And the difference in voice, well as playing his voice in slightly different ways. And there we go. There's a lot of a mix of the personal, the paranoia, the futuristic, yes, Robocop, but you're reminded as well that you're dealing with a story about a man and a man's soul.
I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening.
There's some really, I mean, it's a really good film in that regard. Just for it's a bit of the classic Frankenstein going on with what makes a man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Left. And the thing is, it's really interesting that all the stuff that makes Murphy made him such a good candidate. A lot of it's stuff that they tried to delete in the first place.
Yeah.
And when it comes back, it just makes him better.
Oh, I should also note as well for camera nerds out there, we've done so many shots in the police area now, but almost taken for granted. So this isn't done on Steadicam. Steadicam was around, yes, but this would have been way too bulky for it. So have you ever heard of steering wheel cam?
Ooh.
It's basically like a forerunner to the sort of gyro cams that you see a lot of social media people wearing. The crappy little handles with the spring on top, basically. Yeah. So the director had a 35mm version of that, which you need obviously a lot more support to hold this thing. So it tends to be very much like a steering wheel. And I actually used a steering wheel cam with a steering wheel as part of it, and it's very comfortable. But a lot of these long shots, because they wanted to make this place look lived in. They wanted this place to feel real. Because let's face it, so much else about this world was almost cartoonishly over the top at the time. Of course, nowadays, it feels extremely close to home.
Oh, yes. Oh, too close to home, sadly.
Emil's an interesting one because he's a good example of an actor who was known for playing very soft roles. So I don't know if you ever remember Fame. I don't know if you're old enough for Fame.
No, I remember Fame. Do you mean the film or the series?
The series. I think it was the series, actually. Yeah, I think so. But I know he was in one of them playing a very gentle character, and he tended to play these sort of nice, empathetic characters. Empathy. You know what I mean. And
empathic character.
Thank you. Words fail me at times like this. But Paul McCrane is very, very gentle in a lot of these roles. And so he, like a lot of actors, had to sort of really stamp his feet and go, I'm not doing this. I want something tougher. And it took a lot of work. And even things like he did the little thing with his facial hair at the time as well, which Verhoeven loved, but it helped it helped distance him from what he was getting.
Mm.
And of course, since then, he's appeared in other stuff. I think he was in ER for a good couple
Yeah,
of years.
he was in the R for a long time.
Because he had a rather comical end, let's face it.
But it wasn't just a comical end, it's what led to that as well. Because
Yeah.
he had his. They had an episode where they had a chopper medevac coming in. He was on the roof, and somehow his arm got chopped off by one of the blades.
Yep.
Because he got pushed into it by accident. They then had a whole thing where, because they reattached it surgically and did a whole thing where it just didn't take, so he lost the arm in the end. And this is a character who was a really hardball, high intensity surgeon type, and it just. But also, he was a bit of he was a real asshole character.
Yeah, a love to hate character.
Yeah, very homophobic. He had moments. ER was very good for giving you characters who could be you didn't like, but then they'd have the odd moment where you're like, okay, yeah, I can see there's a little softness, but still an asshole. And in the end, his character dies in another special episode, which I think they offered a few characters in that one. But they have a character again on the helipad, but this time it crashes off the side of the hospital, and he's outside underneath it and just gets. It's when you watch it, it's unintentionally hilarious.
And they spend the whole episode going, "Where the hell is this guy? He's just let us down because he's scared of a helicopter." And then right at the end, they look at it and go, "Uh oh." I will say the gas station, huge explosion, crazy. Oh, this is Cecil again. It's like when I first watched this, I had no idea that this guy, the one guy who stands up to Robo, who goes, no, you can't do that, even though it doesn't get him much. He's the guy holding the box at the beginning. And he's like, get off my kit. It's kind of understandable. But when that gas station blows, they use the Shell gas station. And they blew up the S off the shell first, so that for a moment it reads Hell gas station. And I just love stuff like that. Meanwhile, we have Robocop doing, again, this was special effects. This was a lot of composite stuff. But of course, this is so accurate and on the nose to what police officers do use today. They use obviously a different form of it, but it's very close.
It's kind of scary how prescient some of this stuff was, in fairness. But also just really well put together.
Yeah.
And this is great because you finally get the full names of all these characters.
Yeah. And it's building almost the mythos of these characters so that you know they're really that bad. And I know Boddicker throws Billy. It's Billy, isn't it? He throws
Bobby.
Billy out. Bobby, sorry.
Can you fly, Bobby?
And by the way, that was another, I think, either improvised or workshopped line on the day. But it's just adding these layers. Whereas nowadays, you just have, the guy is bad because he kills a subordinate. And that's it. And then they leave it at that. Whereas here, they're building up Clarence all the way through. In fact, the only time he shows any weakness is when it's just him and Robo.
Yeah.
But they're building this up in the background. So even now, and this, my goodness, this is
it's a heck of a scene, this one. It's so well put together as well. The flashes and how it all matches up.
It's also as well the scene that I think Verhoeven said was the soul of the film. A lot of them really did put a lot of work into this. Again, as well, this is where the sort of whatever you call it, steering wheel cam, or maybe even steady cam for some of this came through. Also, Weller said as well, just how do you show emotion as Robo? Well, a lot of it is in the pace of his walking, but also at the end, you can see he's putting almost everything into his shoulders because that's the way he shows emotion, even though his face is barely doing anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. These cuts, and the music here as well, this sort of dreamlike music that plays through this. And again, we're watching a guy in a plastic and rubber suit. And at this point in time, we believe he's looking into a soul that he can barely remember. It's heartbreaking.
It genuinely is. And given how lean this film is in some ways, in terms of, because we never actually, we don't have anything with Alex actually with his family.
No.
It's always, we see stuff from his perspective, but nothing that's actually, a scene of Alex Murphy with his wife and his son.
Mm.
So for this to just be so effective, it does say a lot about how everyone just put it all together. It's quite wonderful.
Of course, because of the way that this was all filmed, the actress playing Murphy's wife didn't meet Weller until basically the end of the shoot. Because the photos are all close-ups, so they're basically done sort of post or at the end.
Yeah.
But you're right, there's nothing with both of them in. But of course, an actress gets hired for a role like this, will read a small amount of the script, it's really good script, really enjoyable. And then you know that most of the film is about this robot and there's all this other stuff going on. Then it comes out and it's a massive hit, and it's like, wow, I'm part of this. Not the hugest, but I'm part of it. It's beautiful.
It is.
Ah,
and
the
I was
nightclub.
going to say, like you said at the start of that, during that scene, right at the end, all the emotion in the shoulders.
Yeah.
And the speed of movement he's going through. That's an incredibly good bit of physical acting there.
Yeah, and it shows as well. Verhoeven was not trying to make like an action superhero film, and he wasn't interested in the robot as such. He was interested in, without sounding too over the top here, he was interested in the human soul and how it deals with a situation like this. And there we go. There we have Paul Verhoeven's cameo moment. Not his only moment. When Murphy's being shot, his hand comes into frame, and his hand comes into frame later on because he's just there constantly waving actors around, so it keeps getting picked up. But yeah, he has a little bit of a moment.
Yeah, and Ray Wise with some wonderful facial expressions.
Oh God, yes. Now, was this pre-Twin Peaks? Because by the time I saw this, of course, Ray Wise had a very different appeal to me, so to speak.
I think this was pre-Twin Peaks, because this was, 87?
Yep.
And Twin Peaks was, 89, 90, I think?
Okay.
So something like that? Yep, and this film had... You can imagine this is probably understating how much coke was in play in some parts of Hollywood at this point.
Yes, and for those wondering as well why there was so much of it, it's because there weren't a lot of other alternatives.
Yeah.
It was like the main drug of choice. By the way, did Morton think that this was a pizza delivery guy?
I think
because
so.
if so, there's a pizza delivery guy who has gone on a trip, and as he's going up to his delivery house, it's just blown up. I've always wondered, what is the story of the pizza delivery guy who just barely escaped being blown up by a vengeful corporate boss?
Or Boddicker took him out before he got there because he was a bit peckish.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, it's on brand for him.
Squibs were just really nasty at this point.
Yeah,
I know they said that they used very, very heavy squibs on this, and every actor said it was extremely painful, but it just looks as though it's really uncomfortable.
It does, and it was kind of a bit of a trademark for Verhoeven in these sort of movies. I mean, this, Total Recall, Starship Troopers, they're all kind of legendary for how hardcore they were in their squib usage.
Mm.
And there wasn't really much else like them.
Oh, by the way, this is being played using a DVD. except DVDs weren't invented yet.
Yeah, I think you had laserdiscs at this point, but they were like dinner plate size. So
Yeah, that would have been crazy.
that would have been quite funny if Body had pulled out a laserdisc instead.
Now,
Genuinely hilarious.
do you remember? I know this is going to be a long time ago for your initial sort of reaction, but Morton was a bad guy, and we hated Morton.
Yes.
But he was a bad guy who was facing off against Dick Jones. So did you feel sorry for Morton when he died?
Not really.
No. I know it sounds odd, but it's almost like when he dies then I suppose he is the underling who gets off by the bad guy to show you that he's really bad. That's fine. But because they set Morton up and they give him character, it means that Boddicker and Dick Jones now become even worse. They become nastier, which is really effective.
It is. But it kind of puts the scale in context when you think, oh yeah, Morton's a bad guy, but he's not the bad guy for this film.
Mm.
And the fact that it's established that Boddicker has clearly had a long-term relationship with Jones, and it's basically his hatchet man.
Got to give a small shout out as well to Calvin Jung. So Calvin Jung is the goon nearest to us in the sort of dark green coat. This is how open the scene and the sets were. They did this scene a couple of times, and of course, Kurtwood has to be, he's doing a bit of improv and he's doing stuff, and he does the dipping his fingers into the wine moment, which everyone's aware of. But it was actually Calvin who suggested to the boss during takes, you should drink it. Because it shows that you're not bothered by his bullshit. And I love that because there's also something that I think Jesse does. So Laughing Boy, let's just say. There's something about cocking a gun like a minute after everyone else or something like that. But these guys were all adding in little extra moments. And he allowed them to. He had no problem with that. Verhoeven was like, cool. And yet he's a tyrant on set in other ways. It's beautiful. Also, I'll say as well that the guy behind our boss Sal there, the guy who gets shot and ends up getting shot, spinning around and shooting other people, he came up with that idea. Or at least he came up with the idea of, I want to be shot, but I want to shoot other people as I'm being shot. And they went, okay, let's think about that. And then suddenly it ends up in the movie. And I just think this is a sort of... I need to explain the reason for this as well. Because a lot of this feels like student filmmaking, but on a Hollywood scale. And when you give yourself limitations in terms of time, in terms of budget, and this thing had a tiny budget, went way over and was almost shut down on more than one occasion, it just meant that everyone was trying to do little things. Every small thing, even the idea of the guy like cocking the shotgun by just holding the handle, like these are things that the actors went, I can do that because it's a bit extra. And there were probably other bits where they did go over the top and they cut it or they said no, but if they can make a simple scene look better, they will do.
I mean, I've always been quite partial to how well it moves as Robo in this whole sequence, because he adds that flair to every motion, and it's like he shouldn't be doing these, but it just works, and it makes Robo just incredibly cool.
One of these guys, and I don't know which one, by the way, one of the guys he shoots is the guy that does all the stunt work for Robo. So I think it's there. Robo actually shoots Robo, which I like.
Awesome.
But I like the amount of smoke as well in the air. It just gives it almost like a dreamlike sort of... It gives it its own little flavour.
Well, I think it's not smoke. That's the thing I...
Oh, sorry, yeah. You know what I mean, though.
On later watches, but it's not just a case of Robo is blowing up some containers. No, at the start, you see some of the guys knocking over a small fortune worth of coke into the air.
Yeah.
Which is kind of... Is this their plan, is when they get robbed, to get everyone coked up like mad so they can just go nuts? Because... that makes disturbing amount of sense.
Kurtwood as well is another guy. He played a bad guy in one or two things, and I think that was why he was pushed for this role. But especially since he's played so many solid, dependable characters. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I think it's that 70s show and that 80s
Yep.
show, or that he's the trusting father.
Yeah, and a lot of folks they've watched that and then they've watched this and they go, do what?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, let's see. Off the top of my head, he was under prosthetics in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, as president of the Federation.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Yep. He had a role in Voyager during their Year of Hell arc as the main antagonist.
I do remember that. Yeah, a villain with a heart, a real heart.
Yeah. That role, that whole two-parter it's almost a justification for Voyager. And I struggle with Voyager from time to time, but it's very, very good. And a lot of that is because he makes the quotation marks villain incredibly understandable.
Yeah. I'm going to say, our guy with the tash there, when they did the RoboDoc, they had an interview with him today, as they had interviews with all of them. He actually looks younger now than he did then with that tash. He just looks cool as hell.
I dig that. That's brilliant.
Lots of things here. The first one, the main one, is that poor old Bodica there. He cracked his ribs when Robo pushed him into the desk the first time. And I think they were trying to get through the scene and he wanted to do something different. So the blood spit is all his idea and nobody knew about it. Which is great. Well, it helps the Sarge. I never knew about this, but the Sarge is one of those actors who has a storied career. He's done a lot of blaxploitation films. He was very well regarded by everyone on set. He's one of those guys, though, one of those journeyman actors who maybe just hadn't been in a lot of huge hits.
Yeah.
So he was a great character. As you said, though, same with the Goons. Get character actors. Really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, the Sarge is one of it. I mean, I'm trying to, I think he might be in all three films.
I know he's certainly in 3. He's watered down as is everything in 3, but he is in 3. I'm trying to remember about 2. At some point, I'm going to have to watch 2 again.
Yeah. We had it on the watch long not too long ago, and it was an interesting watch. It's weird to watch a film that's written by Frank Miller and directed by Ivan Kershner.
Yeah.
It's a combination that is, when you think about it, it's just wild.
It's a shame. There was so much that could be done, the potential. But again, with films like this as well, films that strike gold, and I didn't realize how much of a huge hit this was. This stayed at a box office that was struggling that year. But it stayed at the box office for a long time. It became a real event. So, of course, the pressure to do a follow-up. And also, you end the film so perfectly. So it then becomes, where do you go from here? And let's face it, it's an issue that no studio has ever fully gotten their head around.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a weird one. I mean, I don't dislike Robocop 2 at all. It's a very odd movie. Exceptionally odd. But it does work as kind of like a continuation of some of the things that are in play in this one, especially the directives.
Yeah.
And how they can go overboard.
I do like the creator. The creator being, I don't know, dismissive of his creation. There's definitely another Frankenstein vibe here as well.
Yeah, Cox is just so wonderfully smug in this whole sequence. Because he knows he's untouchable here.
Yeah.
And fair play to Weller as well for because I can't imagine how difficult that would have been in this suit.
Well, the funny thing is, I've just seen the angle of it as well. You can clearly see under his arm where they've cut
Yeah.
a huge chunk out, and yet it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just, and I think that's the difference between, that's the sad reality on some film sets as well, that as a craftsman, you want it to be perfect. As a director, you need to get the shot. And as an audience, you probably don't care too much about all the things. You just want to see the scene.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure Bottin spit blood over that and was furious. But at the end of the day, nobody cares. You're just looking at Robo being Robo.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays they'd probably do something in post to tidy it up and hide it.
Oh yeah.
But the fact that they couldn't actually gives it a whole charm of its own, because honestly, you might notice it, but a lot of the times you won't care.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Like, you'll care that you can see his eye now through his visor. That's important. You won't care that that right there was a stop motion Robocop. No, because it looks good.
Yeah.
There's loads of little things. Ed 209 as well is fascinating. I never knew until recently that originally the grill was the other way round. And it made Ed 209 look too happy. And they did it. They showed you what it looks like, and it does. He looks like a jolly whale on legs. And you just think, yeah, that doesn't really work.
I mean, it kind of does if he's supposed to be like a. I mean, you want the peacekeeping droid to be approachable in some regards, so it would kind of be on brand for him to have that smile. But
the droid with weapons for guns for arms.
Oh man, the scream the Ed makes when it's on its back after this is just.
Well, you've got the lion and cat noises that it makes normally, and then you've got the pig noises when it falls down. And the fact that was a practical effect as well. It's not a practical effect. That was a practical shot. They just rolled the model down the stairs.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, they must have done that right at the end, because I would be absolutely bricking it. Even one or two steps, if you destroyed that model, that's it.
Yeah, I can't imagine that being something they could have done more than once without us feel very, very lucky.
One thing I'm going to bring up here about its relationship to the Terminator. So this was being written when the Terminator came out. The writers decided not to watch the Terminator because they wanted it not to be influenced. They finally went and saw it, and they went and saw it with a guy that you might have heard of called Stan Lee. That's Stan Lee. And he went, well, there's no chance you're going to be doing that now. And then when it came to, and also when this came out into the trades that this was being made, I think there were some rumbles from Cameron that maybe they were stealing from him, which they weren't. But to add insult to injury, because when they did the first trailer was awful. So Verhoeven got in someone to do a really cool trailer, which was great, and it really sold the film. But they didn't have any music to hand. So they used the first Robocop trailer uses the Terminator theme.
Oh, that's genuinely funny.
And you just think you can't get away with that now. There's, by the way, if you see any, let me rephrase that. If you look up any interview with Verhoeven about this film, he will talk about religion. He will talk about American Jesus. He will talk about religion, he'll talk about Jesus, and then he'll talk about American Jesus again. And some of the shooting stuff, the stuff with Weller, when he's really struggling, Robo is on his knees. There's so much religious
the posing is
influence,
just...
and there's almost carrying the cross in moments. It's beautiful, but also heartbreaking.
Absolutely, because we've already seen Murphy die once.
Yeah.
He's been recreated with this, well, so far has been a nearly indestructible body. And now, I mean, the amount of firepower they thrown at him is frankly absurd.
Oh, it is.
It's hilariously absurd. I love it. but the damage they apply to the suit
Yeah.
is just incredibly well done.
I think the way one of them put it is that even bulletproof will fail if you chuck enough bullets at it,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. I
Yeah.
love, by the way, they called the American car the SUX, the
I
sucks.
know. It's
These
this
are
film is just.
sorry, I just banged the microphone. These newscasters are real newscasters,
Yeah.
which is why they are just so relaxed with jumping topics as quickly as possible. Now, you said at the beginning that maybe the writers didn't like a certain president.
Mm.
Well, the president went and retired to a certain part of the world, and that was the part of the world that they said the laser struck.
Duh.
So when they said that 2 ex-presidents died, no, they really did. They were saying exactly what you think.
Oh, that's fantastic. There's nothing. Sometimes there's nothing better than just having a scriptwriter who was really pissed off.
Oh
at
yeah,
something
absolutely.
and just goes ham to write about it. And man, Bodica's just so. He's not even hiding. He's not in disguise.
This is the other thing. I said about people keep being seen in different ways. So this is just it's almost the most false version of him. Though I love the fact that they managed to get his wife. I think it was his wife at the time, or his girlfriend at the time, who then became his wife. But she's playing the unimpressed secretary. So he's flirting with his partner that he's still with.
Hmm.
And when they talk about the documentary, they keep talking about that. He was like, "Yeah, I have to talk to my wife. I don't talk to her like that normally." It's like, "Yeah, no shit." But he doesn't. Kurtwood, or rather Bodica, he's not this guy.
No.
He knows how to run a gang. He doesn't know the corporate world. So he's wearing a jacket, but he doesn't fit in.
Oh,
Which I
absolutely.
like. And yet Ronnie Cox is absolutely on home turf here.
Hmm.
Even though, again, both actors really discussed this scene because Kurtwood didn't want to come in and just say yes. But at the same time, Ronnie Cox was like, well, I don't want you questioning my character's orders. So they worked this out. And this is when, as well, an actor is protecting their character. Remember, Ronnie still believes his character is right.
Yeah. And
Kurtwood
honestly,
still believes his character is high, but there we go.
well, the thing is, if you step back and think about it, Dick Jones, the initial Layer 209 test is screwed up, but yeah, he is doing everything he thinks is for the good of the company.
Yeah.
It benefits him as well, but he's on the ball with it. He's not trying to sabotage OCP. Far from it. He's not even trying to become the man at the top.
No.
He clearly thinks he can get there eventually, but he's not trying to push the old man out.
In fact, the weird thing about that as well, I just realized as you were talking, D, you don't see his character do anything outside of the corporate world. He's never seen to be taking some sort of extra enjoyment or extra vice. He's not throwing around money. It's purely business. And that's the only time in which you see him, which is actually quite limiting for most characters, and yet it works for him because he's put in so many different situations.
Yeah. And again, you get an actor like Ronnie Cox, and he just nails the material. I don't think I've ever seen him do anything. He's played bad guy, but never given a bad performance in anything.
Yeah. I have to admit, after watching Beverly Hills Cop was a bit tricky.
Yeah.
Because he was being the nice guy, and I was like, I don't quite believe you.
And and that's funny because he actually does make it. He plays a generally a good guy.
Yeah. He's a wonderful good guy.
And going back to his Trek performance, that plays on that because he plays a bit of an asshole a by the book, a more military officer than Picard.
Mm.
Someone who doesn't let the Enterprise crew get up to their usual antics, gets Troy to put on a uniform, doesn't put up with Riker's frankly bullshit and rightly calls him on it and locks him up. But when the chips are down,
He's there.
and he knows that he needs Riker, and he
Yeah.
needs to come to an accord with him, and so they hash things out. And in fact, Jellicoe, he's reappeared in Prodigy, the animated show they did for kids, which, if anyone can find it online anymore, I highly recommend it, because it starts out a little rough, but within like 5 episodes, and they're like half an hour long, it becomes some brilliant Star Trek, especially when it gets into season 2. And Jellicoe shows up quite a lot in that second season. Not as an antagonist. He's kind of the head of Starfleet at this point, but he's in a position that makes sense, and his arguments are they're not wrong.
No, he's doing it. He's doing it again for the greater good.
Yeah,
and that's the positive version of the greater good, not the British comedic greater good.
Although I have to say, I don't think I can ever watch Hot Fuzz again in the same light, because I just read what's currently the last of Charlie Stross's Laundry novels.
Oh yeah.
And there's an incident where the book's hero has to liaise with some cops in Birmingham, led by an Inspector Angel.
Oh no.
And there's a comment midway through the scene, or in the aftermath, where he's like, yeah, no one should have been surprised after the incident in Sadford. And it's like,
yeah.
Stross, you utter brilliant bastard.
I love the way that they always thread these different things through different films and media. Do you know, by the way, that this, I buy that for $1, is from an old 1950s sci-fi film?
Really?
Yeah, it's a very sort of a twisted, odd tale about I'm trying to think now. Oh, that's it. It's a book that if you read it, you'd think it was the basis for Idiocracy. A guy who wakes up in the future, a con man wakes up in the future and finds that most of the population is thick as shit because they've just devolved, and yet the few intelligent people are outnumbered, but they're just trying to manage them as best they can. And one of the things that these masses of dumbasses listen to is this show, and the tagline is, "I'd buy that for $1." And you just think, so the way they've translated that across to here, and it's a stupid, really dumb catchphrase that has no meaning, and yet everyone says it.
Yeah.
This was the scene, by the way, where the lovely plucky villains, or rather the actors playing them, and I think it's particularly these shots, this one here, yeah, they got extra pay because the explosions were so loud that they ended up getting damaged. Oh no, I think it was this one, because even Mr. Wise said after this, like, I think Kirtland's coat actually caught on fire or was smoking. And Ray Wise says he had little drops of blood over the side of his face because it was so close. I mean, but even things like, you know, when Emil goes, "I like it," that's taken from another film, and that was the actor's choice.
Yeah, and it's a line that just
it's so weird.
But it works perfectly.
These guys, I think, because of this use of, again, a little bit of improv, finding the right beat for the right time, it means that these individual lines have lived as long as the film has. And of course, the actors and like RoboDoc and in other, let's face it, other things, comic conventions are plenty. They're told to say these lines, or in the case of our Joker, to do the laugh. And 30, 40 years later, it must feel a little bit odd to go on, just say, I like it. It's like, no, I don't want to say that. I've
Yeah.
worked on other TV shows for 30, 40 years. And they're like, yeah, we don't care. Just say that one line from that one film.
Mm. There's a little more than it must be more than a tad frustrating to have. It's
Yeah.
one of those weird things that I understand why it would get frustrating,
Mm.
but it's all the question becomes, how do you express that frustration? Because
True.
you kind of don't want to take it out on the people who are asking, because normally it's coming from a place of good faith.
Yeah.
But they're asking because they're fans and they have fond memories of you in this role. But then you're kind of in a position where this film was like 4 decades ago. Can't you remember? Didn't I do anything else that was memorable to you, please? So,
By the way, I just read one of my notes as well here. It's when Robo takes his mask off, it's another one of those people won't notice. You never notice that his whole chin strap has gone.
yeah.
And all the
Just
black around it, it just vanishes. It just goes. And did you know, fun fact, God, I'm coming out with them today. Sorry, folks. Did you know that Robocop originally had Robocar?
Oh, okay.
Really fancy, really cool. Designed for Robocop to be in and designed to the measurements of Weller. You can see the problem when he put the suit on.
Ah,
So they went, well, what would a beat up old police squad have? Beat up old cars. So he just got a couple of old cars and sprayed them. And that was
yeah.
it.
I have to absolutely. The cops in Robocop movies do have the least sexy police cars in film history, I think.
Yeah.
And I include any film with British police and that's damning because our police cars are incredibly unsexy.
Yes. Almost deliberately so.
Hmm. This is
Go on.
another one of those bits that it's efficient in how Robo starts playing cat and mouse with them,
Yeah.
and he just takes one of the guys out straight away.
True. And it's a way as well to give the bad guys, I suppose, their own little send off. Though he's still moving. I mean,
Yeah,
he stopped moving then, but I don't know if he's dead or not. Then again, people get shot in this film and survive worryingly easily. It's difficult to tell. They either get shot and it's just a scratch, or they get fully melted and exploded. I don't think you either get it easy or you get it the worst way possible.
yeah. The tank of goo.
So people of a younger age might not realize just how insane people were for toxic waste in the 80s. It was like every kid's hero and villain was born from toxic waste.
Yep. It could do anything, baby, and sadly, it did something to him.
This was really shocking at the time. This was because you weren't you thought the body horror was at one brief part at the beginning of the film.
It's like,
And just his fingers are horrific.
yeah, it's like, what the hell was in that goo?
And just the way as well that you've now got this weird monster running around, and you know it's going to pay off at some point. It just pays off in a way you couldn't even imagine.
Oh yeah, it's kind of one of those moments that is borderline legendary. I remember the first time I saw it, it was just like, wow. Because I think the first time I actually saw it was probably an ITV TV edit. So they didn't have the explosion.
Oh, yes.
Goo. And then when I finally go around, I bought this on VHS and watched it. It was like, oh, I don't
That
remember
happens.
that in the version I saw. Gosh. That's messy.
Well, I think if you watch the cut as well on terrestrial TV, I believe when Robo goes into the liquor store, the guy shooting the gun going, "Why me? Why me? Why you? Why you?" When of course it's something a little stronger.
Yeah.
This was a bit of a change of pace for Nancy Allen, because Nancy was never meant to be in this.
Okay.
And there's a lovely little tie back as well to something else. So there was a different actress cast as Lewis,
Okay.
and she was in a TV series called Remington Steele.
Yeah.
And Remington Steele had been cancelled. So she got this, and her co-star, Pierce Brosnan, got a little film called The Living Daylights.
Yeah.
And then the TV company went, "Oh no, we're going to do another series, and you both have to come back." So Brosnan had to give up Bond, which he was obviously furious about, and she had to give up Lewis. So that's why they got Nancy Allen. And one of the things that they made her do was chop her hair, which I think she had to do a bunch of times, just to make her seem different from the roles that she'd done before, like Carrie, very sort of, I'm not going to say bimbo because they were glamorous roles, but she does have a lot of glam to her. And in fact, if you see any pictures of her today, I mean, I think she's in her 70s.
Yeah.
She just looks stunning.
Yeah, and not in the way that suggests she's had work done. Just
Oh,
the
no,
way
no,
that
no. Natural, yeah.
She's aged beautifully, and I love that's he has that moment of triumph, and then Lewis is just like,
Did you know,
bye-bye.
Ernie Wise, so they had a dummy in that explosion that was dressed in his clothes, and they gave him the shirt from the dummy after the shoot, and he still has it apparently somewhere. I love that. I love that these actors developed those relationships with the cast and crew, and so there were little moments of joy and pleasure and giving back, and everyone realized that this was an amazing film. And yet the most beautiful end to this particular rivalry, a high-tech robot facing off against a guy with all the technology that the military can buy. And what do they end up doing? One of them's hitting the other one with a piece of metal, and then the other one gets a stabby piece of metal and skewers him in the neck.
Yeah.
It shows that at the end of the day, they're just so basic. Of course, we missed all the Jesus walking on water moments, but you know about that stuff.
Yeah.
By the way, this is a real building, or rather, the base of it was a real building.
I'm not surprised, but okay. Go
It's
on.
this bit. So the bit that you can see here, this is a town hall.
Huh.
And since I'm moving from Custom House tomorrow, as we record this, if anyone is in the Custom House area of London, you'll know exactly how weird Custom House Town Hall looks. So it's no surprise to me that that's exactly what they did. They took a weird ground floor and then just matte painted the rest on top of it.
I mean, municipal buildings they have a tendency to get weird. Quick. Yeah.
Do we give the shout out to Phil Tippett now for the wobbly leg and the little fan on top of Ed 209?
Oh, that's so fun.
He was told to make it funny. What I'd never realised, though, is the sound they use for Ed 209 when he's collapsing is the same sound you hear in the Millennium Falcon when the hyperdrive doesn't work.
That makes perfect sense. I adore that. That's great.
And now we come full circle. Full circle back in this very weird corporate office. And look, the old man is actually quite antagonistic to him when Robocop comes in. He's trying to be helpful, but this is corporate business. And meanwhile, they still have that same gun. And this is months after Robocop has been in the field. So this is a company that feels comfortable having a loaded firearm in their office.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Nothing about OCP screams that they're the most competent entity. They appear to be an example of failing upwards.
Yep.
It's quite brilliant in that regard because it's also exceptionally consistent.
I would argue as well that the old man doing what he does is out of self-preservation
Oh, completely.
and shows as well that he is canny. I mean, he's canny all the way through this. In Robocop 2, they take him, I think they try and make him too much. He didn't actually return for Robocop 3 because he hated the script so much.
I mean, that's understandable. And 3, they kind of went with, I think, the idea that OCP had merged with a Japanese company.
Yeah.
So that made sense for that and the cyborg ninjas.
Yeah, we're going to have to say it. Even the guy who did the stop motion admitted that the stop motion was wrong. The legs were a bit dodgy and it just didn't work.
It was the arms that get me, because they're out
Just
there, man.
They are very weird. Even Ronnie Cox said, yeah, because everyone gets to the end of the film and you're like, oh, what's going on there? Fortunately, they have the best end line ever, even though this wasn't the original end of the film.
Okay.
There was an extra news beat afterwards. And it ended with the mayor, who, of course, we never saw, but he speaks to Lewis in bed. And Asa, and I think a TV reporter goes, do you want to still be a cop? And she goes, yes. And then she looks at the camera and she's like, if you can't stand the heat, stay out the kitchen. Which is obviously then saying the same thing as Dick Jones says at the beginning of the film. But everyone who saw like the test screenings, everyone got really excited when it was like, what's your name, son? Murphy. And then there's this odd little bit afterwards. It's like, yeah, nobody likes that.
I mean, in fairness, ending it on what's your name, Murphy, it's exceptionally on point.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
And also it does more than anything else, it ends the film, it ends the narrative. I don't think that there is a way that you could really effectively continue the film unless you take a real leap. But unfortunately, this is especially, I mean, I was going to say, especially then, it would be difficult to make a sequel because people just remade the previous film. But of course, who am I kidding? We're in an age where going back and trying to do a sequel to any successful film now is almost guaranteeing you that it's going to be the same thing over again, just with the odd tweak. And when people do something different, which I think Megan, was it Megan tried to do something different? The horror film about the robot? Like, I mean, they tried, it failed, that's it, game over.
I mean, Megan 1 was quite successful. It was Megan 2.0 that
was
failed. And that's because, by all accounts, that shifted from the horror of Megan to much more of an action comedy in tone for the sequel.
Yeah.
Which I get why they did it, because people had just reacted to the character of Megan so strongly. They thought, well, let's flip her into an anti-hero. And it's a logical thing to do. But by all accounts, it just didn't resonate. I haven't seen that yet, but I'm adding the Megan movies to the watch-along list, so they should come up at some point.
Actually, Dee, would you mind doing folks a favour? Because I think that this and the last recording are probably going to get people watching for a little longer than our Lord of the Rings shows, hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
But fingers crossed. But you've mentioned a couple of times about watch-alongs, and the fact is that the people that are following this are probably have no clue about what the watch-along is, where it is, and what it's on.
Point. Okay, so Fluffenbusters, we're part of the broader Fluffenhammer family.
Okay.
Over on the Fluffenhammer Discord, every month we have something called the Watch Along, which originally it was run by Mr. Gruff, and then I kind of started nudging him with ideas, and he said, "Do you want to take over?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I've been running it for about 3.5, 4 years now, I think, something like that. And basically, once a month, the first Saturday of a month, we watch a couple of movies.
Yeah.
They're selected randomly from a list that I continually update. There's more than 100 films on it, but I get folks to give me 2 D100 rolls for monthly watch along to pick the next month's movies.
Hmm.
And those then become what we watch.
Nice.
And the list is, I mean, we've done obvious stuff. There's a lot of sci-fi. I've tried to fit a bit more horror in there. I have a list I'm working on because at some point I want to try and start doing some Hong Kong action classic specials because
Yeah.
I adore the work of John Woo. So it can't stop me. But yeah, it's basically if you join the Fluffenhammer Facebook group and ask about the Discord, we're happy to send you a link. And the Discord is just a very chill environment. We're generally gamers of a certain vintage. Not all of us, but generally. We're quite a chill group, I think.
Yeah.
We've had the odd issue where people have had disagreements, but it's always been talked through
Sensibly, like adults.
Yeah. I mean, Gruff has said he's only had to really step in maybe a handful of times in the lifetime of the server and the Facebook group, which I find
Which is staggering.
astonishing. Yeah.
For social media.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're interested, it's a Warhammer focus group mainly, but we talk about do we talk about other stuff?
As you may have guessed,
you've gone
yeah.
through this. You can tell we go off on tangents. It's a feature, not a bug, folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'll be honest, Fluffenhammer is something that I'm incredibly grateful to be a part of because it's kind of kept me in the hobby and kept me on a bit of a stable mental flow.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, especially during 2000 was a big help for I think for all of us who are part of it. To be fair,
Yeah, true.
but yeah, if you're interested, feel free to. Hell, if you're interested, pop a comment down below. Ask for a link to Discord. If you want to, or have a look at our Facebook group, and
Yeah, and
see if you like what we're saying.
We can ping you details. I mean, if anyone is brave enough to do it, more than welcome. So all good. I will say a final fun fact from me. So this film is listed as obviously directed by Verhoeven, but it was produced by John Davidson. John Davidson, his voice was the voice of Ed 209. Heavily, heavily modified. And so when you hear the recording sessions, because again, this isn't some digital stuff done after the fact, they pretty much had the voice set up on the mic when he was recording. So when he's talking to the people in the booth, they also have a voice that sounds very much like Ed 209. So it's great hearing them talk to each other in these Ed 209 voices going, have we got it yet? Yes, we have. Okay, that's good. Right.
That's right.
Are we done? Yes. One more, please. Okay, I'm sorry. My bad.
See, I do love that Davison, prior to this, he produced Airplane and Top Secret, which is just chef's kiss in terms of quality parodies.
I think after this, I think he took a long break.
Understandable. I mean, Airplane, Top Secret, and Robocop, that's a solid trio to have on your resume, to be fair.
Meanwhile, Verhoeven's career went in a very different direction.
Because this then led to Total Recall, if I remember, and then Basic Instinct, I think.
Yes, and then Starship Troopers,
followed by Showgirls, which is Verhoeven's filmography is weird.
It is,
folks.
I think we might do another one of those in the future, but I'm not going to tell you which one.
I mean, I don't. Only one of those films I think could generally be classed as bad, but that's only if you're treating it seriously. And I don't think it was ever intended to be treated seriously.
No, and at least one of those has become a cult classic. And yes, unfortunately, it is the one that was considered bad. But yeah. Oh well.
The rest of his filmography is generally, it's a pretty stellar list of movies when you stop and look at it.
Yeah.
Soldier of Orange, Flesh and Blood, Robocop, Total Recall, Basic Instinct, Starship Troopers, Showgirls. Did he do anything after Showgirls? 'Cause
He has. I think he has done stuff. I think
he went back to
Yes.
do stuff in Danish cinema, I think.
Yes, but I
Sure.
don't think he. I think after Hollywood as well, he was pretty
Mm.
burnt out. Plus, as well, like for directors, even getting one film made in a career is an
Yeah.
achievement. It's incredibly difficult. So for him to get the amount of stuff out that he got is a real achievement.
Oh
And he's
God, yeah.
still talking about films and he's still involved in the business, so it's not a bad thing. I mean, I'm sure at some point someone will try and drag him into doing a Robocop reboot, but he does seem like the sort of guy that unless there was a reason to do it, a genuine soulful reason, he just wouldn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're asking me to do a Robocop reboot today, I would probably try and get Peter Weller to play the old man role,
Yeah.
and find ways to give some of the original cast, because the thing is, they're all damn good actors. We've
Yeah.
just spent the last 2 hours kind of singing the praises of almost every member of the cast in some way, and the opportunity to put some of them in little cameo. It's easy to put an actor from a previous version of a film in as a cameo, but a lot of these actors are good enough that they would be good in just roles in a movie.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing as well. I think a thankless cameo as well
Mm.
almost feels like a bit of an insult. So you need something that's a bit meaty for these people to do.
Yeah, something
And
that's been
also,
thought about and considered.
yeah, also as well, a throwaway line doesn't mean anything.
Mm.
It's like random person says the thing. Nobody cares about that. Just find a way to put some meaning and soul into it. That's why the Robocop remake just didn't really feel right because
Yeah,
it wasn't its own thing and it wasn't a homage and it wasn't a reboot and it wasn't a remake. It was none of all of those and it couldn't figure out what it wanted to do.
you know what the real kicker is about that film? It would have worked if it had been intended as a proper sequel to RoboCop.
Yeah.
So it's 30 years later. I mean, they've tackled this in other parts of RoboCop over the years. There was a whole mini, like 4 TV movies that were based around the idea of building a better RoboCop. It's what RoboCop 2 is all about. It's
Yeah.
it's one of these recurring elements in the franchise. But the 2010s RoboCop, if it had kind of, there's good stuff in it, and some of it is actually quite pointed in its commentary, but it doesn't feel right,
Mm.
So some of it is the fact that it is a RoboCop, selling itself as a RoboCop film, and that's a lot to live up to. If you ignore the rest of the franchise, just that first film that we've just watched,
Mm.
that's a hell of a thing to try and update, because
Yeah.
you have to live up to it. It's a selfless thing to do.
It's also as well, you're trying to, RoboCop, a lot of it is a critique of the politics and the social
Mm,
structure of the time. So if you're trying to update it, are you going to try and critique the old history, the 80s and the 90s and elements of that? That will appeal to some audiences. But if you try and do it for today's audience, well, the fact is a lot of studios they don't have the teeth to do it
yeah,
because you're tackling some very hot topics at the moment and studios are naturally scared of that. So is it worth doing if it's only going to be a lukewarm, watered down attempt at being satirical, which is
and honestly,
unfortunately what happened?
how can you satirize a world where Fox News and Alex Jones exist? You know?
Exactly. It's almost like it's if anything, you would need to go the other way and just have your characters treat it as normal because that's what it is. But
Yeah.
there we go. Slightly pessimistic note to
Ah,
end the stream, but hope you don't mind, ladies and gents.
well, I have thoroughly enjoyed that. It was good to get Robocop back in the can. And
Yes.
I think we've both come up with some bits of information we missed last time as well. So
Oh, I honestly, compared to last time, I think this is a quantum leap above where we were. But it's one of those processes we're still learning, and considering our various situations at times of various recordings, it's understandable when we're not always as sharp as we could be.
very true. And on which note, as we start to wrap things up, Adam, where if folks are interested, can they find you?
Oh my goodness. I guess the only place is on Instagram, 88mwhite, and that's it. And since I am moving flat tomorrow, as we record, I will be back in Manchester. So give me a couple of weeks, and hopefully, if I can move around with any ease, I'll be taking pictures of street art, dark cities, grim alleyways, cool lighting, and all sorts of other weird stuff in Manchester.
Yeah, excellent. For myself, I am foolishly across all the socials as David Kelly. You really can't miss me because no one else spells it the way I do. Let's be honest.
That's true.
Although somehow on one of my, I think on YouTube, I've got like 4 digits after my name. I don't know how that's happened.
Oh, it does it automatically. Don't worry.
Yeah. I'm an occasional contributor to ukanime.net. I'm Mr. Gruff's regular co-host on the Patreon exclusive Deeper Dive show on the Fluffenhammer. And we record here on Fluffenbusters, where we are steadily putting out more content. And honestly, folks, if you've gotten this far, thank you so much. And we appreciate you listening. And if you have any thoughts, comments, films you'd like to hear us tackle, please leave a note down below. And if we've already done it, it's not released yet, we'll let you know. If it's one we haven't done, we'll probably add it to the list because we're always good for ideas.
Yeah,
frankly.
absolutely. Cool.
But yeah, on that note, I think we should probably call it a show.
Sounds good.
So, folks, again, if you've gotten this far, one, are you okay? Do you need assistance? Because there are folks who can talk to you, honestly. But no, mostly, thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care, folks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.